If you procrastinate, know one thing first. You are not alone, and it is not a fatality. Your brain is not being lazy when it puts off a task. It is unconsciously arbitrating between pleasure and pain, and it almost always leans toward immediate satisfaction rather than a distant reward. This is a normal mechanism, not a character flaw. Procrastination is not an illness either, even though it can accompany certain disorders. Depression, ADHD, OCD, phobias, or conversely workaholism. For the vast majority of people, it is simply a learned behavior, often inherited from our family habits, and therefore reversible. Researchers have been studying this since the 1980s. Piers Steel, with his Pure Procrastination Scale, administered a 12-question test to hundreds of people to measure their degree of procrastination. Two profiles emerge: those who ignore the consequences of their delays, and those who chase the excitement of immediate pleasure. His work also shows that impulsive personalities lacking perseverance are more prone to it. According to him, about 20% of Americans suffer from truly problematic procrastination, a figure likely transferable to France. A distinction must be made between occasional, almost harmless procrastination and chronic, destructive procrastination, the kind that produces stress, guilt, and mental exhaustion. It is the latter that must be fought, not the former. The central message: you were not born a procrastinator. You became one, and what is learned can be unlearned. The trap is believing that everything rests on willpower or motivation. But these two resources are limited and fluctuating. Willpower wears out like a muscle over the course of the day, and motivation comes and goes with mood. Relying on them alone is a recipe for failure. The real strength lies in having become aware of the problem precisely by getting this book. That is a first step, small in appearance but real. And as you will discover, rewarding yourself for these small victories will be one of the keys to moving forward without constantly fighting against yourself. Understanding procrastination better. Definition. What is procrastination? Are you a true procrastinator? Now that you know you procrastinate, you still need to know how. Several profiles come up often, and you may recognize yourself in more than one at a time. The perfectionist polishes everything until nothing ever gets finished, or stays indecisive for fear of making a mistake. The saboteur always finds a good excuse not to act, lying to himself. The imposter dreads being exposed as incompetent and takes on too much in advance, risking burnout. The fearful one avoids situations where he might lose control or be judged, like ignoring an unknown call. The overwhelmed one drowns under the accumulation of tasks until total blockage. The daredevil, finally, only moves under the pressure of a deadline, sometimes effectively, sometimes not. Behind these profiles, the causes run deep and are often unconscious, rooted in our childhood and upbringing. Two internal causes dominate: anxiety, linked to fear of failure, of judgment, or even of success, and perfectionism, often revealing low self-esteem that traps us in a vicious cycle of failure and self-deprecation. On the external side, we find the absence of immediate reward. We prefer easy pleasure to useful effort, and organizational problems. Poor time estimation, false urgencies invoked to justify avoidance, or scattering across 1,000 tasks that never get finished. Contrary to popular belief, getting organized is not enough to cure procrastination. That would be as futile as asking someone who is depressed to simply smile. At its core, procrastinating is a failure to regulate our emotions in the face of discomfort. Like the children in the famous marshmallow test, unable to wait for a double reward, we often prefer immediate satisfaction over a greater future benefit. Understanding this mechanism is already the beginning of freeing yourself from it. Day 1. Profiles and causes of procrastination. Let's finally move to action. Professor Piers Steel, a world reference on the subject, summarized the entire mechanics of procrastination in a simple equation drawn from his temporal motivation theory. Motivation equals expectancy times value divided by impulsiveness times delay. Expectancy is your perceived probability of succeeding. Value is the satisfaction the result will bring you. Impulsiveness measures your ability to resist distractions and think long-term. Delay, finally, is the time before the deadline. The longer it is, the less motivated you are, because your brain prefers quick results. The higher the numerator and the lower the denominator, the more you take action. The interesting part is that you don't need to be perfect on every variable. It's their overall balance that counts, and you can act on any one of them to tip the scale. 3 examples illustrate this well: Writing a report with little interest but plenty of time ahead. High expectancy and impulsiveness. Low value, long delay. Procrastination guaranteed until the deadline approaches. Launching a personal side project. Value is high, but expectancy is low, and the obstacles of daily life feed impulsiveness over a long delay. Same result, for different reasons. Taking up sport again in January. All variables are moderate or balanced, and it is then the speed of decision, acting quickly before doubt and postponement set in, that tips things over. You don't need to pull out this equation for every micro-decision of daily life. It is a tool for understanding, not a ritual. It applies to everyone, whatever your procrastinator profile, but each person will be more sensitive to certain levers than others. The coming days will break down each term of this equation, with concrete techniques adapted to how you function, to turn this theory into real results. Day 2. The procrastination equation. Does a task seem insurmountable to you? It's often because it is too big, not because it is too hard. The solution: break it down into small, concrete problems. As Coach Michael Ferrari puts it, we procrastinate when we no longer see how to go about it. Make the path visible, and your paralyzed brain will find its way again. This idea unfolds into a 5-point method. First, visualize your long-term goal. Project yourself once the result is achieved. Feel the pride, understand why you want to get there. This sense of purpose will fuel your action. Next, prioritize. Our days only have 24 hours, so bring back the good old Eisenhower matrix to rank your goals by urgency and importance without taking on too much at once. Third step, break these goals down into concrete, measurable sub-goals, outcome, performance, or process, to artificially reduce their scale and make them attainable. Fourth point, define precise, clear actions, ones you can check off one by one, while staying flexible in the face of the unexpected. Finally, set deadlines for each action, even minor ones, because the pressure of a deadline concentrates your attention like nothing else. Watch out, however, for decision paralysis. Too many options kill clarity. The Ivy Lee method, popularized in 1918, offers a simple remedy. Every evening, write down the 6 most important tasks for the next day, ranked by priority, and tackle them one at a time without starting a new one before finishing the previous one. A good resolution alone is never enough. It takes method and habit, as Robin Sharma's 90/90/1 rule reminds us. Finally, to give value to an action, imagine what your inaction could cost you, but focus above all on what will make you proud or happy once the task is done. It is this felt value, more than organization alone, that will truly get you to take action. Day 3. Expectancy and value. Does a task seem insurmountable to you? It's often because it is too big, not because it is too hard. The solution: break it down into small, concrete problems. As Coach Michael Ferrari puts it, we procrastinate when we no longer see how to go about it. Make the path visible, and your paralyzed brain will find its way again. This idea unfolds into a 5-point method. First, visualize your long-term goal. Project yourself once the result is achieved. Feel the pride, understand why you want to get there. This sense of purpose will fuel your action. Next, prioritize. Our days only have 24 hours, so bring back the good old Eisenhower matrix to rank your goals by urgency and importance, without taking on too much at once. Third step, break these goals down into concrete, measurable sub-goals, outcome, performance, or process, to artificially reduce their scale and make them attainable. Fourth point, define precise, clear actions, ones you can check off one by one, while staying flexible in the face of the unexpected. Finally, set deadlines for each action, even minor ones, because the pressure of a deadline concentrates your attention like nothing else. Watch out, however, for decision paralysis. Too many options kill clarity. The Ivy Lee method, popularized in 1918, offers a simple remedy. Every evening, write down the 6 most important tasks for the next day, ranked by priority, and tackle them one at a time without starting a new one before finishing the previous one. A good resolution alone is never enough. It takes method and habit, as Robin Sharma's 90/90/1 rule reminds us. Finally, to give value to an action, imagine what your inaction could cost you, but focus above all on what will make you proud or happy once the task is done. It is this felt value, more than organization alone, that will truly get you to take action. Day 4. Delays. Having your to-do list is good, but it's not always enough to get you moving. Here are several independent techniques. Pick the ones that suit you without trying to stack them all. The Pomodoro Technique, invented by Francesco Cirillo, involves working in intense 25-minute intervals, followed by 5 minutes of real break, no scrolling, with a longer break every 4 sessions. Time pressure becomes your source of motivation, and satisfaction comes from the number of sessions completed rather than from the result itself. If 25 minutes feels too long, the rounds method, recommended by Professor Piers Steel, offers shorter intervals, like a boxing match, before gradually increasing the duration. We almost always underestimate how long a task will take, a real symptom of procrastination. The reflex to adopt: multiply your initial estimate by 2 or 3. The urgency mode works well, but especially when the pressure comes from outside, a client, a loved one to whom you made a promise, rather than from yourself. So don't hesitate to announce your projects to those around you to create that sense of commitment. To kickstart momentum, the 2-minute rule is formidable. Immediately handle any task that takes less than 2 minutes. It lightens your mental load and gets you moving. The Getting Things Done method, created by David Allen, is based on the idea that mental load hampers concentration. Write down absolutely everything you have to do, sort it by importance and time, and thereby unload your brain. Tedious to set up, but valuable for anyone who feels overwhelmed. Finally, be careful not to turn this organization into a new form of perfectionism. Stay kind to yourself. The goal is to free yourself, not to lock yourself into an even more rigid framework. Day 5. Impulsiveness. Today, the goal is simple. Limit the distractions around you. Concrete techniques, ones you often already know but never really apply, out of laziness. First, recenter yourself. It's impossible to be effective while stressed and pulled in every direction. Take a few moments to breathe deeply, clear your head, or even practice cardiac coherence breathing. 5 seconds inhale, 5 seconds exhale, for 5 minutes. Remember the marshmallow test. The children who resisted didn't fight their craving. They forgot about it by distracting themselves. Apply the same principle. Turn off your notifications, and as soon as the temptation to check your email or social media returns, immediately redirect your attention to a task on your list rather than fighting it head-on. A powerful trick. Always start the beginning of the next task right after finishing the previous one. Even just a sentence, even just 30 seconds. It creates momentum that pushes you to keep going, like Netflix automatically playing the next episode. Also, take advantage of transition moments, those floating instants between 2 activities, waking up, coming home from work, a break, where you unconsciously choose to stay productive or slip into passivity. Professor Peter Gollwitzer also recommends preparing your intentions. Anticipate in advance how you will react to predictable distractions. If the phone rings, I don't answer. This creates commitment and automates your good reflexes. Finally, if eliminating your smartphone is impossible, you might as well make it useful with apps like Forest or FlipD to help you stay focused. After these 5 days, always come back to the essential question. In which situations do you procrastinate, and how? Revisit Steele's equation, test the methods, adjust, start again. Procrastination is not an exact science. There is no universal magic formula. What matters most is trying, learning to know yourself, and persevering without getting discouraged. In the end, it's just a matter of habit. Day 6, a slightly special 6th day. Some techniques escape Steele's equation because they play a card it doesn't measure: creativity. First, don't feel guilty about procrastinating. It happens to everyone, even the president. If you find yourself doing the dishes to avoid studying, own it and turn that moment into a genuine pleasure rather than a passive escape. Read a chapter of your favorite book. Go for a walk. The idea is to remain the author of your own happiness, to regain the energy to then tackle what was putting you off. The because technique, drawn from the work of psychologist Ellen Langer, shows that a simple justification, even an absurd one, drastically increases our rate of action, from 60% to over 90% in her photocopier experiment. Use this on yourself. Ask why this task really matters, find the real reason, and project yourself forward. Mel Robbins' 5-second rule offers a mental countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, to get you moving before your brain has time to slip into procrastination mode. particularly effective for small, everyday actions. In the same spirit, do it, even badly. An imperfect action is always better than no action at all. You can always improve it afterward. Also, stop telling yourself that you are a procrastinator. As the Quay method shows through positive self-suggestion, convincing yourself of the opposite feeds the problem rather than solving it. To shift perspective, imagine how your favorite role model, real or fictional, would tackle your task. It can make the situation lighter, even amusing. Finally, when faced with a low-stakes decision that paralyzes you, like choosing a computer among 20 open tabs, leave it to chance. The consequences are often minor, and it will save you from wasting precious time in endless indecision. Day 7. The benefits of procrastination. What if we learn to procrastinate? Society pushes us to be productive at all times, but procrastination is natural and can even have real benefits as long as we're talking about the good kind, not the kind that truly harms us. First, structured procrastination, theorized by John Perry. When you avoid one task to do another useful one, congratulate yourself rather than feeling guilty. You remain productive in spite of yourself. It also nourishes creativity. Adam Grant showed that students who took a break before working on ideas were 28% more innovative, much like Steve Jobs, an advocate of reflection time before action. Thanks to the Zeigarnik effect, we remember unfinished tasks much better, which feeds our reflection and sharpens our decisions once we finally take action. It can also reduce stress, provided you know yourself well. Giving yourself real breaks at the right moments recharges your batteries rather than plowing ahead until exhaustion. Finally, it saves time. According to Mark Victor Hansen and Robert Allen, 85% of our results come from just 15% of our actions, so it's worth deliberately